Hi, my name is Seth Enos, and I am the product manager for System Integrator at DTools. And I am being joined today by Reed Hansen, the CEO of TraxxiO. TraxxiO is an inventory management software that we've integrated with, and in this webinar, we're going to demonstrate how projects and purchase orders can be transferred from System Integrator over to TraxxiO so that you can manage your inventory completely for all of your projects. All right. Before I pass control over to Reed so he can demonstrate how great TraxxiO is, I'm just going to show you very quickly here in System Integrator how you can push over a project and a purchase order to TraxxiO. So just very quickly, I'll just go to projects. Now, you can do this manually as I'm about to show, but before I pass it to Reed, I'm going to show you how you can automate this so you don't have to think about when these push over to TraxxiO. I have a project here. Um, very easily, I can go up to integrations and click export. And when I do this, it's going to show me, in my case, 2x integrations that I'm associated with, but I'll check the one here. It's already checked for TraxxiO. And if I hit export, that will export directly over to TraxxiO. And I'll go ahead and do that. So it's just that simple to push over a project. And then from there, you would import it into TraxxiO that, again, Reed will be demonstrating shortly. What I want to show you here there's also purchase orders now. So this is a newer feature here where I'm going to just quickly create something here. And I'm going to pick a vendor. And then I'm just going to skip right over to adding items to this. And we're going to add from this project. And I'll just go ahead, do a quick summarize view, check in that project. And what this is going to do is going to pull up a list of all my products in this job, as you can see here. And I'm going to go ahead and say I want to order these, but I can select these. And one of the new features in version 18 is the ability to check inventory over in TraxxiO. So right here, while you're adding items, you can see right here, check inventory. This is going to ping over to TraxxiO and get a real-time count of how many total of these items you have that were selected, how many are reserved, which Reed can explain further, but reserved means those have already been, I would say, staged or checked out to a project or a job. They're ready to go out. So they're technically not available. So this would be your available count over here. So it's nice inside of SI, you're able to check your inventory from within a project, from within your catalog, if you just need to order parts, or directly when you're creating a purchase order like I am here. And then from there, you can adjust if you don't want to, obviously if I have some on hand, I don't need to order them all. But just for the sake of this, I'll just add these here. And very similar to what I showed you earlier, where I took a project and I pushed it over to TraxxiO, I can do the same thing here. Export to integrations. This will pull up. And again, we'll say I'm going to this one and hit export. And very quickly, before I pass over for the exciting part here, the TraxxiO part, I'm just going to show you very here quickly under our control panel here. Under manage integrations, you'll see this. Just go ahead and open this. And we have settings here where on these settings, you can choose project automation. So you can have projects transfer to TraxxiO every time it's checked in or every time a status changes to a particular status. So we'll go ahead and show you. There's our list of project statuses here and our list of integrations of where to export those to. Same is true for purchase orders. So if a purchase order is created in draft mode, maybe that's just enough to send it over, or if you want it to be issued through SI, then send over to TraxxiO. You have those options when you're creating this and setting this up. So, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Reed, so bear with me while we do a transfer here.
Great. So one of the things on TraxxiO, we're cloud-based, so there's no installs needed. We do have a mobile app for iOS and Android, but most of the things that we're going to show today are all on the desktop, and we can go over mobile in another video another time. But basically, when you've created that order or that project, you can do the import on the TraxxiO side. So then you can choose what you want to import. And what it's going to do is it's looking for that mapping that I talked about before. So here's an example. There's one product that you have in DTools that you haven't brought the information about. over to TraxxiO yet. So when you do that, it's just making sure that if you have family and subfamily, brand model packaging, that's where that packaging came in. If you do sell it as a bulk item or don't want to label every single one, you can make it bulk, but that's another bigger conversation. But in this case, it's just an LCR speaker. You sell them as a single. It brings over labor hours and cost, and just by adding it, it adds the information about it. It doesn't add it doesn't actually add a quantity yet, and we'll come to that in a minute. Once all the products are mapped, it's going to ask you how you want to bring that project in. You can either choose to bring one, you can make an order in our system, which would be like that job order thing I talked about a minute ago. You can either bring one in by phase, so it'll bring one order for finish, rough, trim, and programming. If you didn't want to bring in like the finish and the programming, you could turn those off. Just so if you're doing a pre-wire now and then in 6 months you're going to do the actual bid, you could do that. Or if you want to bring in each location by phase, by location, so if you had basement or like a finished basement, and you can go up to 6 levels, which I believe it's campus, building, floor, room, location, and then it'll just make it'll tell you how many orders you're going to make when you do that import. So and then of course with request dates and request finish dates, and that'll show up here in a minute. Okay, so we're back in that project. You can actually see the information. If we did do a start date and a close date, it would actually show dates in there. You can add notes and photos, and then you can see that each one of these, like the rough in, programming, and finish, are now in there, and there's one order per. And you could do by order by location, and that's where that nomenclature comes into can be important. So I'm just going to click on one order so you can see that. And these are all the items that are on that order. It shows you how many physical items. And once you see that you've got this project, we can, now you say, okay, great, now I need to order what I don't have. And what you can do is we can import those purchase orders. There's a couple ways to do this. You can import purchase orders from DTools, or you can actually do, so you can select a vendor. You can do purchase orders on the DTools side or on the TraxxiO side. And we can go up to the manage that purchase order, and you can see here's the item, and we'll just click on this one so we can see it. So these are all the items that you need for that purchase order, and you can either email it from here or again from DTools. You can add tracking numbers to it, and when that comes in, that order comes in, you can actually receive against this purchase order. And what that'll do is, let's say you're bringing in 10 of these and 12 of those and one of those. By receiving the purchase order in TraxxiO, it does a couple things. One, it'll send the inventory increase back to DTools, but it'll also do to QuickBooks if you want that. And the other cool thing is it's going to print out all the labels for those products, whether they're bulk or individual items. And one of the things I skipped over here was, if you have serial numbers, you can also add the serial numbers onto any item, and that you can do right from that purchase order screen. But you can also go into the individual item history and then add that serial number in. And then even if you realize, oh, I screwed it up, it's really something different, it does keep the original and the new serial number. So if you have multiple serial numbers, or certain TVs have a different serial number length on the box than they do on the actual unit, then you can update that later. This way, you're collecting serial numbers and information on products in the warehouse where you have room and you have light and you can see it, where it's easier than trying to do it in a truck or trying to write it down on a piece of cardboard, or spending a bunch of time in the field trying to get serial numbers on what you installed where. So let's go to one of those orders again, and then you can see this is a different order, but on any of the orders, you can either choose to create a work order, and this would be for something that you could send that would, sometimes people use it as a packing list, but not usually with the pricing. Or if you need a pick list that you want to send out in the field with the tech, they can have that without having pricing on it, which is usually handy. And the other thing is, by scanning this QR code on the top of these orders, it will actually bring you to a page where you can create a where you can reserve items and then put them on one master carton, which we call a master carton, but it's a reserved item for that order. And as you'll notice, if I want to make a new master carton, it will auto label it unless you say it's for for a certain order. So like, let's go to like this order 12. It has a whole bunch of products and it says that you need so many, these acoustic, Origin Acoustic D68. You need 29 of them. And it'll show you the whole order. So you could walk through your warehouse and just scan items that are going to be put on that order. So then later, when I've got a master carton here, when you see this master carton, and I just scan it with my little handy scanner, you can see the items that are already on there. And when you want to move it to a vehicle or actually to the job, you're only scanning one label. So let's see here. Let's move some stuff around here. So like I said before, we have a mobile app, but you can also scan an internal location. Each location, you can print out a label that would go on the shelf that says shelf 1, or let's say like the staging area. And just by scanning that master carton, it will show you the master carton and then the quantity of what's on that master carton, and it will move it just with that simple scan. And then let's say that you're going to then later move it to the blue van, one of your vans, and you just have to scan it once to move it. And what that's doing is it's keeping inventory available even if it's on the vans, but it's separating those the inventory. So if you ever have to do a report on what's in a specific vehicle, you can see the only 3 things that are in that van are the speakers, and they're reserved for a certain for an order and so on. And this also works well for if you need to pull insurance information. So like, there's nothing in the high value cage, but you can see what you have in stock, if it's reserved, if it's available. And this is all still inventory that shows up, and that would be sent over to D-Tools as far as those quantities. And another great thing about being able to see all this information is at any time you can click through on these items and see the history of that item. So if you had serial numbers, now granted this is a different thing, or let me just scan an item here real quick. So on here, it gives you a minute-by-minute custody tracking of that product, from where it came in, to serial numbers, to who moved it. And granted, this is all me, but who moved it, when they moved it, how long it's been sitting there, its reserve status. One of the things that I showed earlier was about being, if it's public facing, sometimes you have televisions or things like that, that um, if somebody wants to learn more about that product or has trouble with it, you can control an actual public facing landing page that shows up for that product. Won't show that today, it's another thing, but it's kind of a cool thing that you can put this is how this works, contact us for support, and it's right there, and then that they scanned it. So let's see. Kind of once that's moved to the project, at some point you're going to want to know, items that are at a customer, and you're able to do reports based on a customer for a time period. You can also do, because we're tracking the internal locations, you can do inventory min-max levels or min-max summaries, where if we actually go to a location here, let's say you have different vehicles and they're different sizes. Like, you're not going to have the same capacity to carry inventory in a service vehicle as you will for a rough-in vehicle. And you can actually set a location class that would give you alerts either by email or through reporting that, hey, there's 75 rolls of wire in this one truck, and we probably have all run into this where there's 25 or 40 feet left on a spool of wire and they don't want to use it. Well, that's still sellable inventory, unless you want to be in control of getting rid of it, not just getting thrown away or given to that plumber or whatever. So let's see. Then I think another thing would be, if you ever need to pull a report based on a brand, let's say you want to find out how close you are to a buying, like a buying level from, like if they do tiered pricing or things like that, or if there was a recall or something like that, you can do for a period of time. You can pull a report, then you can see all the product you brought in, and if it's internal or if it's been sent to a customer, you can pull all kinds of options that, when it was reserved, who it was reserved for, all kinds of stuff. You can export it as well, but that kind of does most of the, it just scratches the surface on reporting. And then one other feature, just to show that a lot of people like about what we're doing, is you can audit inventory, and we have two kinds of inventory audits. One is I would say like a manager's audit, where you can select a location and it'll tell you what's supposed to be there. So like on this one, you can see these are what's supposed to be here. But sometimes when you want to do an audit, you just want to know it's there. And because everything has a consistent label on it, you're actually able to tell somebody, go out in the main warehouse and scan anything with that label. And when they start scanning it, it just tallies up a list. Then later you can go through and see the completed audits and know that, okay, in this location, you have all these things, and this is what was actually scanned or received, or in where it is. And you can mark things as lost if you can't find them, or if you need to, a lot of times what happens on these audits is you find a lot of inventory you didn't think you had. So that's been kind of something that's been that people really like about what we're doing. So, or what you can do in TraxxiO. So, and I think the last thing that I could go over is the the licensing works based on a site and then how many users. And with the users, you have the ability to set their permission level by the user or by user groups. So it makes it really, really robust and able to keep people on track. So,
All right. Well,
yeah.
that's fantastic. Thank you, Reed. And thanks everyone for watching this presentation. For more information between the integration between System Integrator and TraxxiO, please contact us.